What's up, guys? We are back here with Evolution, and let's go into some tips, tricks, and cheats on the Evolution, the video game. So, this game is extremely complex, for one. This is an early build. This is, alpha or beta mode. So things are subject to change. The core game mechanics most likely are not going to change whatsoever. So these tips should be relevant throughout whenever you're watching this video, whether it's 6 months from the upload, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. Also, I am not a professional Evolution player, so I am a decent / maybe good Evolution player, but I am by no means a professional Evolution player. So, if you have some advanced strategies or completely disagree with some of the strategies that I'm going to list here down below, post them down below. Call me out down below. Post your strategies down below in the comment section. Love to hear from you guys. Thank you guys for watching. So let's jump into it. Evolution is a digital board game that allows up to 4 players. In this version, there is no player versus player, but there will be a player versus player as the game officially releases. So, right now you are practicing honing your skills against the AI opponents. The most important thing in Evolution is always to keep track of where this little dinosaur is. This is the turn order. So this determines who gets to play first, who gets to eat the food first, and is extremely important. So, on the first turn, everyone throws their card in the center. We are now the last person, so we can't see what they've put in the center. This is going to determine the food. Depending on how you want to play your cards, depending on what you have in your hand, determines on what number you should essentially put in the center. We could put a whole bunch of food in there. We could put 8 food, but we don't have anything to really use all that food, and we get to go first. So which means we're going to be eating the food first, so we don't need a ton of food in there. Generally, in the digital version, there's a lot of low numbers. There's not that many large numbers I've found. So we've played around 10 to 15 games here in the digital version. And of course, balance and stats on cards could potentially change. We don't have the full deck. We don't we don't know what every single card is. But generally, it feels like there's a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4, a couple negatives here. There's not that many big food cards in the deck. So generally, what we're seeing is right around like 5 to 10 food in the watering hole every turn. The AI also is fairly smart, and in the beginning turns, they normally put a small numbered card in there. This is again subject to change for against human opponents, but against the AIs, you're generally only seeing, again, that 5 to 10 food on the first couple turns. So, in this case, we are going first. We don't need a lot of food in there. You also want to see what other cards you have, and figure out if they're actually worthwhile playing or using them as new species. Generally, the best thing to do is to start off the game with 2 or 3 new species in the beginning of the game. So at this point, we can start off the game with 3 species because we have a lot of food. We can put 8 food in here, and all these other cards are actually not very good for turn number 1. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's put 8 food in the watering hole here, and then we're going to use 2 of our cards to create new species. So you see, all the cards are there. Our contribution is 8. We don't get to see what any other opponents are doing yet. So, let's go ahead and throw and create 2 new species. And you do want to generally use all of your cards, especially on turn number 1. Because the more species that you have, you'll get 1 additional card every time that your species lives. So, we made 3, which generally you don't want to do if you're acting 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Because there's generally not going to be enough food in the watering hole. But we put 8 in there, so that's a whole bunch of food. So the max amount of food that anyone can consume on this turn is essentially around like 7 or 8. Because if they each used all their cards to create new species, that would be 4, 4, 4. So essentially everyone could create 4 new species, and that would be 16. So absolutely max amount of food that they could potentially eat is 16 on turn 1. That almost never happens because you're gambling that there's 16 food in the watering hole, which is almost unheard of. As I said, you generally see around 5 to 10. So most people do 2, and then they start loading up their species with traits and abilities. Our hand was pretty bad. You have to get familiar with the cards as well. So the hand was pretty bad. We're going to go ahead and now use this horns, or we can make another species. Do we really want to gamble that much and think that there's going to be enough food for 4 species? Generally, no. But if we take this gamble and it pays off, we're going to get a lot of cards next turn. We're going to get a total of 7 cards. or we could play the Horns. The Horns is only a defensive card, and even if we defend one of our creatures, the other creatures are still going to be vulnerable and be attacked. So at this point, we should probably just go ahead and go all out and go 4 species and end our turn here. Because, again, putting the Horns on one of our creatures is not really going to help it out much. So you can see the benefit of going last. He got to see what was going on. This guy went 2-2, which means he's generally going to be a carnivore. He's going to go ahead and eat 2 different creatures. 13, a lot of food in the watering hole. So we have no traits on any of our guys, so we're just going to go and eat with our first one. It does not matter. He went over and attacked the top player. So if you are, say, this player, the better thing to do would have been to attack one of these guys down here, or one of these guys over here. Because if you allow your opponents to build up, you're going to see next turn, we're going to get a ton of cards. And also there, he attacked a creature that had already eaten. You never want to attack a creature that had already eaten. You want to kill off a creature that has not eaten, because when he attacked that creature that had already eaten, that food in the stomach of that creature goes into our victory points. You can see your victory point down there. So he should have attacked a creature that had not eaten, which would prevented us from getting an additional victory point this turn. So this turn, we're still now essentially going to get all 4 of our victory points. And now next turn, we are going to get 3 additional cards because we have 3 species. So in this point, we are tied for first place with this player over here. So he is our #1 priority that we need to watch out for. This player over here didn't do so great in my opinion. He only got 2 victory points, and he is 1 carnivore. You can see he's only got 3 cards as well. So again, the round happens again. Always keep track of the deck of cards as well. So once the deck of cards run out, the game is over. It will tell you if you cursor over it, if it's the final turn, or if it's very slow, very low amount of cards, like say like 20 or 15 in there. Know that that's the second to last turn. So again, play starts all over. The dinosaur has now moved 1 over, and now we are in last position. Position is the most important thing to realize in this game. Now we have to think strategically about what we're going to throw in here. There's 5 food left over. There's not that many plant eaters out here. We can only eat if nothing else happens right now. There's 7. So there's almost enough food to feed all of these plant eaters right now. The carnivore is going to eat 2 people. I mean, he might increase his strength, but generally right now we're in a very, very good spot. We can create a lot more plant creatures. We can also utilize the fertile cards right now, which are fertile are amazing cards. These cards you definitely want to hold on if there's food in the watering hole. So once again, get familiar with all the cards. Every game will be completely different. So at this point, we definitely want to keep the fertile cards. We probably want to put a lot of food in the watering hole as well. Scavenger is going to be a decent card as well, because there's a carnivore over here, and he's going to have a lot of targets. So probably, let's go ahead and put the fat tissue in the center. So again, we put a lot of food in there. The carnivore went up to 3. So this is the benefit of going last. We get to see what other players are doing, and then we get to guesstimate what has happened. So we can't see their cards. This guy went 4-3, so this is kind of scary right here. He went a very big body size, and then a lot of population. That might be a carnivore card, so that means we'll have to buff up our species to be protected from another carnivore that's going to be quite large. I really believe that's a carnivore card, so in that place, we're in trouble here. Because there's going to be 2 carnivores going before us. So this one is a 3-2, no new cards added there. And then this one is potentially a 4-3. This one has Symbios and 2 other new cards that we don't know what they are. It went up to a 2 strength and body size. So this carnivore can eat this species over here, unless these are other defensive cards. Generally, this one is going to go and devour our guys. So what should we do here, guys? We have a lot of food in the watering hole, potentially. There's going to be at least 10 in here, unless everyone else threw negative cards. We can put burrowing, but we're still going to be eaten by one of these and one of these generally. We can put Symbios on one of our creatures. If we increase the body size of this guy to, say, 2, he will be protected. If we get the body size up to 3, we can be protected from this guy and this guy. So that's probably the best play that we want to do. We probably want to put Symbiosis on our creature here. And then we probably want to put the Fertile, because he's going to be protected. Then also put the Fertile there. And then go ahead and raise up the body size of this creature to 3. Symbiosis is now going to protect it. The body size of 3 is now going to protect it from both of these carnivores. And we are essentially sacrificing off of this species over here, because there was no way for us to protect all of our species this turn. Overall, this is a solid turn for us, in my opinion. This guy may not even be a carnivore, but we'll see. We're taking the chance. We're guesstimating that he is a carnivore because of the stats that he did pump up on his hero here. At this point, we want him to be a carnivore because 2 of our guys are protected. He will then have to eat himself or eat the other carnivore over there, which both of those things are really, really good for us. So let's end our turn and see what happens. And our guesstimate was right. This guy turned into a carnivore. So we're going to see what's going to happen over here. This guy has first action. So he should essentially eat off one of this AI's people over here. He made a horrible mistake here eating with the plant eater. There's going to be plenty of food in the watering hole. He will not need to eat with this plant eater. He should have eaten with the carnivore first. Same thing with this hero over here. He should have eaten with his carnivore first. Horrible, horrible, horrible plays here. You always want to add up how much food is in the watering hole, how much food is going to be eaten by your opponents, and then determine if you need to go after the food in the watering hole, or if you should just use your carnivores to prevent opponents from gaining bonus points. So at this point, we're going to eat with our creature on the right here because he is the only one that could die. And even if he does now die, we just scored our 1 victory point. So it's like we got our point no matter what. At this point, the carnivores are now devouring each other, which is great. All of the herbivores are full up on food, except for this one over here, which you can't really see too well because of the plant covering it. But at this point, he's going into attacking mode, which is perfectly fine. There's plenty enough food for everyone. There's only 5 food going to be devoured this turn, so they don't need to worry about which creature actually eats. Again, horrible mistake here by the AI. He should have attacked the creature that had not eaten food. That would have prevented his opponent from gaining an additional point for this round. So we're going to go ahead and chow down on the food there, and that's going to end the turn. So this AI actually ended up getting the most amount of points this turn. He also scored an additional 1 point that was hidden over here because of the other creature that actually ate food and then got killed. So at this point, this AI is winning the match. You always want to keep track of who is winning the match. That is very, very important. Now, this should be our #1 target. This is the player that we need to beat, the player on the right. So we're going to be focusing our attacks in our gameplay on the player on the right, making sure that we can stop him because we want to win the match. The end goal, of course, is to win the match. Getting first place is the end goal. At this point, the Fertiles are going to trigger, which is awesome, so we're going to become, bigger in population, which is great. Fertile is an amazing card if there's extra food in the watering hole. Always utilize Fertile if you can. So at this point, we probably want to put a lot of food in there, and we do have a good amount of choices. Cooperation is a great, great card, so we can use this in combination with our Fertile to keep just earning tons of food. We can also use Scavenger since there's quite a few carnivores out there. So let's go ahead and throw the Intelligence card in there because we want to increase the amount of food in the watering hole, because we're going to be increasing our population to 3 here. So we're going to be eating 6 food guaranteed this turn, as long as there's enough food in the watering hole. And then we might be building up another species, but we have nothing to protect it. So generally, we're just going to sit pretty with our 2 species over here and move forward. At this turn, we're going 3rd in position, so we know what everyone else is doing, essentially, besides the player on the left. We're not too worried about the player on the left at this point, because he's been making mistakes, in my opinion, and he hasn't gained that many points, so he's a little bit behind in the leaderboards. Essentially, we're worried, again, about the player on the right here. Always keep tabs on that, and now he's buffing up his carnivore to 2 different cards, and now making it a 4/4. At this point, we have to increase our body size by 1 to make sure that we're protected against our carnivore over there. He may have put some other offensive carnivore attacking trait on there, so we might have to think about that and determine, should we do anything else? Should we increase our body size to, say, 5 or 6? This is where knowing about what the cards do comes in handy. The only thing that he could have put on here that would make us fearful is pack hunting. Pack hunting allows him to attack with both his population and his body size. If that's the case, there's no way that we're going to be able to get it up to 8 to defend ourselves. So no matter what, he's going to end up killing us. So all we need to do is go up to 4, and then we're perfectly fine on this. We can't put a defensive horns on there to make ourselves, more defensive. And whenever they attack us, they're going to lose 1 population, kind of a deterrent on attacking us. So that might be something that we want to do. But first, we have 2 of these horns, so let's go ahead and get rid of one of the horns, because we know we need to get to body size number 4, and then from there we can figure out what we're going to do with our cards. Cooperation is a really, really strong card, but at this point, there's been plenty of food in the watering hole, so we haven't needed to use the cooperation at all. Cooperation is a card that if there's not that much food in there, you use it so you can eat food faster, or you can make a big cooperation food chain where, like, you combo them together, have multiple cooperations around there. So at this point, we don't necessarily need to use the cooperation. We might even want to use this card to increase our population size, because we contributed 7 in here. So there's going to be at least 10 food in the watering hole. We're going to jump up to 3. He's got a creature over here at 1, so that's going to be 7. This is 8. This is 9, 10. This is 11. So as long as they contributed a little bit more of the food in there, we should be perfectly fine, even if we increase our, population here by using our cards. We can also then put the scavenger on, which probably will be the better play. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's go increase our population here. And then let's go ahead and increase our population here. And then let's go ahead and put the scavenger on here. And we're going to end our turn. So our fertiles are going to trigger and make ourselves 4/4/4/1 creatures. Let's see how much food is in there. So only one other person put, food in there, which is definitely not good for us. So now there's not going to be enough food in the watering hole. But there's going to be carnivores attacking. So we actually made a mistake there. We should have eaten with our creature that does not have scavenger. That was a mistake. We should have eaten with this creature over here. So now we're going to eat with this creature over here, because this creature is automatically going to get fed by the carnivores attacking. So let's see if this kind of made us lose food on this round. It doesn't look like it, but it actually did really hurt us, because he's going to now eat, and there's not going to be any extra food in the watering hole for our fertiles to trigger next turn. So if we would have done this properly, there would have been 1 extra food in the watering hole, and we would have triggered our fertiles next turn. So we eat the last food, and again, now our fertiles are not going to trigger, which really, really sucks. And so that's why counting the food and making sure that you utilize all your cards is very, very important. So at this point, the game is almost over. We've probably got about 2 more turns left of the game. There's 44 cards in the deck. You can see he's got a lot of cards. He might be doing something crazy this turn. We don't know what he can do. Turn order is over here. And now the person that we were scared of is not really too scary anymore. Yes, they did score a decent amount of points last turn, but we are, I think we're doing really well. I think point-wise, we're probably either right at the same amount of points as him or a little bit higher than that AI. So we're perfectly fine there. And they have nothing else besides this 1 carnivore. So at this point, there's not that many plant eaters. There's 1, 2, 3, and then us over here with 8. So there's 11 total. But there's 0 food whatsoever. So we definitely need to throw the biggest card in here that we have, unless we want to use these cards. So long neck, before feeding, players receive 1 plant food. This is a very, very good card. It doesn't take it from the watering hole, it just gives you 1 plant food. It is a really strong card. If you have like foraging or cooperation, we don't have any of those cards, so for us it's not that great of a card at this point. We can put a scavenger on, which is going to be a good card for us. So let's go ahead and drop our long neck because, you know, we're going to need food in the watering hole to feed our guys. And at this point, I think what we have to do is we have to bring our guy up to 6 to prevent him from being eaten by the carnivore. And then we should go ahead and throw a scavenger on him. So let's go that. Or what we could do is we could just put the +4 hard shell on our creature. And that gives him the body size larger than 6, so he's protected. And now we have 2 cards in our hand that we may not want to actually even use, because if we increase, say, the population or the body size, it's not really going to help us, because I don't think there's enough food in the watering hole. The carnivore is going to attack, so every time he does attack, it is going to trigger the scavengers. But generally, you do want to use your cards. So he is going first. With the AIs not being that intelligent, even though they are advanced AIs, we may want to go ahead and create another species here. Because if we can just go ahead and eat with our species, we're going to get 1 free point. If you ever want to undo anything, there's the undo button right there. So let's think this through for a bit. So I do think that the best line of play here is to actually just go ahead and use our cards to increase up the population here. I think there's going to be plenty of food for us to eat, even though there's only 4 from our contribution, and there's 0 currently in the watering hole, because they both have the scavenger card. So the scavenger here, he's going to be able to eat at least himself, so that's going to be 1. This guy over here, most likely he's going to be able to eat 1 or 2. We don't know what they're going to play yet. He's going to be able to eat this guy over here. So as long as he eats a couple of species, the scavengers are going to trigger, and we're going to go ahead and get free food off of that. So I think we should be perfectly fine increasing our population up to 5 on both of these guys. And the other option that there was to make 2 new species. So this is the other option that we could have done. Or we could have also done this to guarantee that we get the 1 bonus point. But in this case, this guy's going to die regardless almost always because the carnivore is going to attack it and eat it. And if we do both of them as species, generally the carnivore is going to attack and eat. He's going to have 6 attacks, so I feel like the best way to do it is to just increase our population. And as long as the carnivore attacks about 2 or 3 different creatures, we should be in perfectly fine shape. Even with the very limited amount of food in the watering hole. So look at all these creatures. It looks like he's going to have a lot of targets to choose from. So this one already triggered. And look, there's a ton of food in the watering hole as well. So let's go ahead and eat with one. It doesn't matter which one we eat with right now because there's plenty of food in the watering hole. So he attacked. We're going to trigger. We're now going to eat with the creature on the right here. He attacked, that's going to trigger our food. He'll be able to kill off this species over here as well. And then this one is protected by the burrow, and this one has horns. But he still can't kill the guy with the horns over here. So that's going to fill up the creature there. And this is great for us because now Fertile is going to trigger next turn as well. So our populations are going to increase on our 2 creatures. Turn has ended, and you can see the carnivore on the right that we were scared of has now slowly, filled up, and he doesn't get that many points this turn. We are definitely winning this match by far because of how much food that we're getting every turn. Even though we only have 2 species, we are essentially dominating this match. We have 27 points already scored in our tummy, and I think this game is pretty much all over. This is the second to last turn because there's 22 cards left. Generally, about 20 cards are distributed every single turn. So this should be the second to last turn, almost always here. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so either this is the second last turn or there may be one more turn going forward. So on this turn you can see we've got all these low cards, 2, 2, 2, and -1. We definitely want to put some food in the watering hole. And I think we're going to be using the burrow and the warning call combination in this hand. So let's go and get rid of our climbing. and that's going to put 2 in there. We also are going first. Again, the dinosaur is very, very important. So at this point, there's a couple of different options. These guys are essentially safe because of the hard shell and the symbiosm. There's no way for him to get around this unless he does some intelligent, crazy stuff, which he may do. May swap out a card and put intelligence, but that's going to be very costly for him. So essentially, these guys are pretty much safe for the rest of this game. What we want to do is we want to create a new creature over here, and then we probably want to create another new creature, and then now put on the warning call, and then also the burrow here. Why we want to do this is because the burrow will be able to make this creature unattackable as it's full. And we're going to go first, so we're going to be able to eat first, which is going to fill up this creature that's a 1/1. This is now going to protect our other 1 creature over here. So I think this is the correct play for us. And of course, it always depends on the cards in your hand and what is going on here. So sadly, this one is a 1/1 with the burrow as well, so that one's going to be very hard to kill. The carnivore may not actually have many targets this turn, which could be bad for us, because we want the carnivore to attack so it can feed up our scavengers. Wow, lots of food in this watering hole here. So again, we're going to eat with our creature that has burrow. So now this creature is unattackable. At this point, we're going to go ahead and eat with our 1/1. It doesn't necessarily matter, but these guys could potentially get food because he can't actually target this guy. So he's going to be able to target and kill off something. So our carnivore is going to give us some free food over here. And now with that done, this one is going to be attackable as well. So the carnivore is going to have a couple of targets to attack. So let's go ahead and eat with that one over here. And sadly, fertile is now useless because we are at max on our population. The numbers on your character's population and body size can max get up to 6. So again, no more targets for the carnivore, and now we're just chomping down, nom nom nom, eating the foods. And look at that, we got tons of points. And you see, this is the last round like we anticipated last time. And this game is all but over at this point. We essentially don't even need to do anything on this turn, in my opinion. We have this game locked down, we have enough points, but you always want to win harder. So, let's think about this. So let's go ahead and throw in one of these big food cards. Either the horns or the hard shell are both a 4. We actually have 2 horns, so let's go ahead and throw a horn in there. And we're going to be protected by our warning call. So, most likely, we'll be safe, unless he attacks us right away. So this one's got burrow, and we have no way to give him food right away. He's actually going to be able to eat us first. And that would be the smart play. He should attack the creature here first. And he has climbing as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give him the hard shell. And we need to get him up to 6 so he can't be attacked. So let's go ahead and get rid of ambush, increasing up to 6. So now our creature is completely protected. He's got a defensive body size of 6. We can go ahead and make a new species, which is now going to be protected by the warning call as well. So these guys are getting protected. Then we have these guys protected. All these guys are protected. And now we can just increase our population size here because we want to eat more foods. There, and there. So once again, we have a lot of food to be eaten, hopefully. These guys should get some food from the carnivore. So again, there's 19 in here, a good number for us, definitely. Definitely like to see a big watering hole there. So he can actually eat 2 things. He can eat himself, and he can also eat the opponent over there, which is good for us. So we don't need to eat with our scavenger creatures at all. So we're going to eat with all the other creatures before we eat with our scavengers, because you see these are going to trigger and now get some free food. it does look like we're going to kind of miss out here and not get enough food this turn. He has no more targets. And we're just going to go chow down. At this point, it doesn't matter which creature we chow down with. So he's going to lose 3 there. And everything else is going to give us our points. And that is the tips, tricks, and cheats. So far, there is no cheats involved in Evolution, the video game here. You can see we definitely dominated this match, 80 points to the second place player who had 50 points, which was again the AI on the right, which we correctly called out turn 2, saying he was the strongest player here. He was the player that we needed to watch out for. He was the player we needed to beat. And at that point, all the other players should be focusing on the player that's in first place. That's how the game should strategically be played. Against AIs, you never know what they're essentially thinking. Against human opponents, you should be on the lookout for everyone ganging up on the person in first place. That's the smarter way to play, and that allows the second, third, fourth place player to potentially get back in the game and actually win the match up there. So, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the tips, tricks, and lack of cheats there. The only cheat that I can think of so far is that if you are playing with AIs, you can just kind of reset the game if you don't like the turn order. If you're not going, say, first or second on, on the beginning opening turn, there will be like leaderboards and rankings and things like that. So I'm not sure if that cheat will work later on in the future. But yeah, that's the only thing I can think of right now is if you are trying to kind of cheat the system and you always want to go first or you always want to go last on your first turn, you can just simply exit out of the game, restart the game, and then, load up another game there. But thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you guys later. You can back this game on Kickstarter right now and get into the beta. The official game will launch sometime in 2018. Look for it, guys. It's going to be Steam, iOS, and I believe Android as well.